This idea that I'm sorry, I'm back. Sorry, I gotta do the thing. It's 373, week 4, part 2. The idea that it's funny. It's funny that the same people that say, "Oh, gender is simple. If you have a penis, you're a man, and if you have a vagina, you're a woman," are the same people who are like, "Yo, buddy, you better man up." Like, I have a penis. I'm a man. That's it. Isn't anything I do manly because I'm a man, and by definition, whatever I do. I love that I wear the pink shirt for the man. That was a complete coincidence. So people at the same people that claim that gender is simple. Are also able to grasp that there's a performative element to it because that's why they tell you to act like a man or act like a lady. And some of you may be aware that men are expected to act a certain way and women are expected to act a certain way. If you act a different way, people get upset. My wife, my wife, people are wearing masks during COVID, so she wore a mask that had like a mustache on it. And multiple people, including a small child, was like, "You're not allowed to wear that. That's for men." And she was like, "It's just a mask. It's funny, right? Like, it's like a mustache mask." And they were like, "No, you're a woman. Women don't have mustaches." And they were like really upset by it. Like, this is the lowest level of whatever. Um, One time I went to a show with my wife. And she got all dressed up with these big high heels and this whole outfit. The show was in Times Square. This was years ago, back when you could go to a fucking show. And we went to the show, and we had to stand outside for a long time before they let us in. When we got in, we discovered, it's not, you have to stand up for the whole show. So my wife has been, we live far away. We had to take the subway train for like an hour. So she's been standing on the subway in the heels, then she's waiting outside in the heels, then she's in the show in the heels, and it's a long show. It's like a 4-hour show, and then we're coming home. Her feet are aching. They feel really bad because she's been standing in high heels for like a long time, like 8 hours or 6 hours, 6 hours or something. It was a lot. Well, her and I have the same size feet. And I thought, you know what? I know what I can do to help. So I gave her my much more comfortable shoes, and I put on her high heels. This was on the subway. Um, and there were people, and then I was like, I never wore high heels before, so I was like, okay, I got the subway pole, and I'm kind of practicing doing the high heel walk, and going around the subway pole in a circle like this. And there were people who thought that was really cute that I was trying, because we couldn't get a seat, and people thought it was really nice that I was looking at for my wife. Some people, though, did not think it was cute, and I felt like if I didn't take those shoes off, they were gonna beat the shit out of me with sticks. Um, and yeah, I was just fooling around, just being silly. I was just like trying to help people out. Um, but I felt like they were going to get real pissed about it, because people will enforce these kinds of things. In this, you see Lady Macbeth doing this when she says, you got to be a man, you got to toughen up. Um, and you see, but what's interesting is that Lady Macbeth says, if you were a man, you'd kill Duncan and take the crown. And then Macbeth turns around to the assassins and he makes the same argument. Are you a man? He says, we are men. Well, technically you're a man in the sense that you have a penis, but are you a man in the sense of being violent for no fucking reason? And they're like, yeah. Because he says, because if you're not violent, you're not really a man. You're like in the same way that a dog is technically a dog, but that's not what we mean when I say bring me the dogs. So in the speech, he says, right, technically you're men. Zoom in. There we go. In the catalogue you go for men as hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, curs, choughs, water rugs, and demi-wolves are clept all by the name of dogs. The valued file distinguishes the swift, the slow, the subtle, the housekeeper, the hunter, every one according to the gift in which bounteous nature hath in him closed, whereby he does receive particular addition from the bill that writes them all alike. And so have men. So he says, like, yeah, I'm like, technically you're a man, but it's what people do that defines them, not what they're sort of born with. And so he mentions all the different kinds of, he lists off a bunch of dogs and says, yes, they're technically all dogs, but dogs have different qualities, right? Some are fast, some protect the house. What else does he have on this list? I forgot. Some are slow, some are smart, some are fast, some hunt. But it's those differences. It's what people do that makes the difference, not what they're born with, but how they act or perform. This idea that gender is something performed. Is a big part of drag race culture. I don't know if you know RuPaul, but RuPaul, drag race is this kind of thing where you have traditionally men dressing up as women, but like very exaggerated women. So like women may have a lot of hair, and men have the drag queens have huge hair and crazy colors, and women may wear jewelry, and the drag queens wear crazy jewelry, and it's very, very exaggerated. But the point of drag, the RuPaul, who runs Drag Race, says that we're all born naked, and everything after that is drag. Meaning that sort of your gender is a performance. It's about how you act is gender, and drag race proves that, because you have these people who have, a penis, but they dress up in these kinds of crazy, exaggerated, overly dramatic, kind of sort of exaggerations of sort of femininity, to put on a big crazy show. And it's a big. I have a bunch of friends who are drag queens, so I've given this just way too much thought. But the so the how do I put this? So the idea is that RuPaul sort of shows the way gender is a performance, and the whole show is about, you see these guys putting on the lipstick and the wigs and the whole thing. Shakespeare knew this. Of course, Shakespeare knew. And this is like a recent idea that, oh, drag queens teach us that gender is a performance and it's not about what's between your legs, but it's a social role, and so it has to do with how you act and how you present yourself, and how you present yourself has to do with makeup, and it's art. It's something you do. You perform gender. But Shakespeare knew this 400 years ago. How did he know this? Well, of course he knew it. He was working on a stage where all the women were men dressed up like women. Of course he knew gender was a performance. Shakespeare was in the performing arts. That's his whole deal, is performance. And so, of course, he does this play, and in the play, you have Macbeth saying, "Oh, technically you're a man, but it's the actions that define gender, not the sort of the technical what's between your legs." And so, but of course he knew that, because it's a performative world, and then because the whole notion of the stage is men dressed as women. Um, and Shakespeare was very intimately involved with that whole world of wigs and makeup and all of this stuff. Um, that's what theater is, and it's why you tend to see a lot of it's you see a lot of queer people, in the performing arts, because they understand something about the nature, but the idea of performance is intimately linked up with being queer. Of course, because sometimes for happy reasons, because a lot of men find it enjoyable to get dressed up in these crazy feminine outfits, but also for sad reasons, because a lot of people who are gay have to spend decades pretending that they are straight for their conservative families. And this teaches people the power of theater and pretending. So, of course, they grow up to become incredible actors because they've been doing it since they were 8. Okay, I'm having fun. So he says, Macbeth says to them, um, now, if you have a station in the file, and not on the worst rank of manhood, meaning if you're not the lowest, cheapest, most worthless kind of man, I will put that business into your bosom, whose execution takes my enemy off. Yeah, that's it. I think I'm done. And they go off to kill Banquo. It's just fascinating to me in terms of psychology that Lady Macbeth says a real man would kill the king. And then Macbeth turns around to the assassins and says, a real man would kill Banquo. He's really learned from her. He's learned from her a little bit too much. Um, Lady Macbeth has, in getting him to commit this murder and get the crown, I think she thought they would be happy, but he's not happy because he's immediately stressed about Banquo and Banquo's children taking over. She has started him on a path that he can't get off. It's like Frankenstein, and then the doctor creates Frankenstein, and then he loses control of the monster. She has turned him into he was already a soldier killing people in the battlefield, but now she's turned him into like a domestic murderer, and he can't stop. He wants to kill Banquo, he wants to kill Fleance, and then very quickly he wants to kill Macduff and Macduff's whole fucking family. And he starts off killing the old man in his house, who happens to be the king, and then he moves on to killing his best friend, small children, women, servants. He's just slaughtering everybody. She can't stop him. And then, of course, very sadly, and this is something I don't really love about the play, but Lady Macbeth, as he begins to take over, she begins to fade into the background. She's so important in the first half of the play, but then he becomes the sort of murderer that she's helped make him into, and then he rises and she falls, and she kind of she degenerates and then vanishes. All right, I'll pick it up in the next video.